ventral aorta and afferent branchial arteries coming off the ventral aorta, supplying deoxygenated blood to the gills. Then what we have to look for is the efferent branchial arteries carrying the oxygenated blood away from the gills. And lo and behold, with any luck, we're going to see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 efferent branchial arteries coming off. Here for you guys, 1, 2, 3, 4 efferent branchial arteries carrying the blood away from the gills. Yep, okay. And those efferent branchial arteries come together to form a large midline vessel, and that big vessel would be the dorsal aorta. Okay, so that's going to carry the blood back towards the body and also forward towards the head. And as it comes forward, that single midline dorsal aorta splits into the paired dorsal aorta. And this shark did not inject super well so that you can see them all the way forward. So you can see this pair of vessels here, and then you kind of lose them. Okay. You see those here? These are the paired dorsal aorta. And then they kind of get lost. But we do have another shark here, which I had looked at, and I believe we can see. Oh, so I thought this one actually was. Oh, yeah, you can barely see it here. But here's the paired dorsal aorta coming around, and you can see that it curves laterally there and connects to this vessel, which is the hyoidean efferent. So here's the dorsal aorta curving around to the side. You see that okay? Right. You guys, here it goes, and it kind of curves over like that to the side, connects to the hyoidean efferent. Okay. So I'll come back to this one. Where that would be on this one here would be coming and curving around and connecting approximately there to the hyoidean efferent. So this vessel that we see coming up like this is the hyoidean efferent artery, or efferent hyoidean, I guess is properly what it's called. And where the paired dorsal aorta and the hyoidean efferent join, that vessel then that runs forward from there is the internal carotid artery. So this is the internal carotid here running forward. And you've got one from each side coming together. They come right together in the midline and then pop into that hole in the bottom of the chondrocranium. And that, what was that hole called?
Carotid foramen.
The carotid foramen. Okay, so just to remind you, we've seen where that is. Okay, so I haven't even been paying attention to my list here. Let me look at it, make sure I'm good. Order. I'm doing pretty well. One thing that we haven't seen, which I don't believe these guys really dissected, are the collector loops, which are the blood supply coming out of the gills and going into the efferent branchial arteries. And they're a little tricky to dissect, but if anyone wants to get in there and try, particularly if you have a bigger shark, it can be a little bit easier. But that's basically this loop that surrounds each gill slit and is draining the blood out of the gill lamellae into the efferent branchial artery. Okay. All right, there's some other little branches to mention. There's some arteries that branch off from let's see if I can find them here. There we go. From the region here of the second efferent branchial artery, and you can see them running along like there. You see that little guy? And this is called the pharyngoesophageal artery, and it runs to the pharynx and the esophagus, hence pharyngoesophageal. And you should be able to follow them down that way, but they often don't inject very well further down, and you just see the beginning of them. The hyoidean efferents we've seen. Okay, if we look up in this region here off the internal carotid, what you can see is there's a branch. You can see there was a branch. Where did it go? There should be two branches. Oh, there's the other one. Okay, good. There's a branch here that runs forward like this, and this is called the stapedial artery. and it's carrying blood forward up into the head. And does anyone know what the stapes what's the
In the
stapes?
ear?
It's in the middle ear of a mammal, right? It's and this artery is homologous with an artery called the stapedial artery in mammals that runs right through a hole in the middle of the stapes. So it's running forward into the skull, basically off of the aortic arches.
Do amphibians have stapes?
They do. It's called a columella usually in
Okay.
an amphibian, but yeah, they do. Okay, so that's the stapedial artery, and then there's another artery that you'll see running forward, or actually really coming out this way here, and this is the efferent spirocular artery. So it's carrying blood away from the pseudobranch that sits in the spiracle. That's this one here. And remember, the pseudobranch is not actually oxygenating the blood, and so it gets blood from an afferent spirocular artery, which I don't think we can see on here. Did you guys find that, the afferent spirocular?
It was I think we kind of tore it.
It's usually, you can see it on the outside of the head, sort of by the spiracle, but
It was next to the hyodian nerve.
wait, on the inside or